I want to tell you about the most overcrowded place in the world. It is not a city. It is not a marketplace. It is not any physical location you can visit on a map. It is the graveyard of good intentions. And every man who has ever said, "I know what I want," and then failed to build it. Every man who has ever felt the burning desire rise in his chest, and then watched it slowly cool without ever becoming anything. Every man who has started and started again and stopped again until the starting itself became something he no longer trusted. Every one of those men has left something buried in that graveyard. A plan he never finished, a business he never launched, a life he could see clearly in his imagination, but could never quite bring into the physical world where it could be touched and measured and lived. I have studied that graveyard for 40 years, and I want to tell you what I found there. Not laziness, not lack of intelligence, not absence of desire. The graveyard of good intentions is not filled with the efforts of weak men. It is filled, more often than I care to count, with the efforts of capable, intelligent, sincerely motivated men who possessed everything necessary for achievement except one thing: a plan. Not a wish, not a strategy loosely held in the mind, not a general sense of direction. A plan. Organized, written, specific. Built on the practical experience of people who had already walked the road. Flexible enough to be adjusted when the road changed. And backed by the kind of persistent, daily, disciplined action that turns a plan from words on paper into a life actually lived. That is what was missing. And the absence of that one thing made all the other things, the desire, the intelligence, the ambition, the faith, insufficient. Because desire without a plan is simply longing. And longing, however sincere, builds nothing. Today I am going to give you the plan for making plans. The organized approach to organized planning that the most successful men I ever studied used, consciously or unconsciously, every time they built something that lasted. Are you ready? Then let us begin. Part 1. Why desire alone is not enough. I have spent a great deal of time in these sessions talking to you about desire. About the burning, specific, all-consuming desire that is the starting point of all achievement. And every word I have said about desire is true. But I must now say something that desire alone is not equipped to hear. Desire is the fuel. But fuel without an engine is simply a dangerous liquid sitting in a container. The engine, the organized, systematic, deliberate structure through which desire is converted into directed action, that engine is the plan. I sat with Andrew Carnegie for many hours during the early years of my research commission, and I asked him once about the role of desire in his achievement. He told me something that I wrote down immediately and have turned over in my mind ever since. He said, "Napoleon, every man I have ever hired had desire. Most of them had more desire than they knew what to do with. Desire was never the shortage. The shortage was always in the willingness to sit down, to think clearly, to build systematically, to consult people who knew more than they did, and to construct an organized plan specific enough to be actually followed. Desire, Carnegie told me, is the fire. But without organized planning, the fire burns wild. It consumes enormous energy and leaves nothing standing. I have verified that observation in every interview I have conducted since. The men who failed, the men with genuine desire who nonetheless arrived at the end of their effort with nothing to show for it, almost universally failed at the same point. Not in the wanting, in the planning. They wanted fiercely. They worked hard. They sacrificed genuinely. But they worked according to a plan that was either absent entirely, or vague to the point of uselessness, or built entirely from their own limited experience, without the benefit of the knowledge and counsel that organized planning requires. And the men who succeeded, the men who converted their burning desire into physical, measurable, lasting achievement, almost universally shared one characteristic in their method. They planned, carefully, specifically, with the counsel of people who knew more than they did. And they revised their plans without shame when the plans needed revision, because they understood that the plan serves the purpose and not the other way around. Let me say that again, because it is one of the most important things I will tell you today. The plan serves the purpose, not the other way around. The man who falls in love with his plan, who treats his plan as the sacred object rather than as the tool it is, that man will hold his plan after it has stopped working. He will defend it against the evidence that it needs to change. He will arrive at the end of a failed effort and say that his plan was right and the world was wrong. And he will be entirely sincere and entirely mistaken. A plan is a tool. The finest craftsman in the world does not hesitate to pick up a different tool when the one in his hand is not doing the job. He does not take it personally. He does not treat the inadequacy of the tool as a reflection of his own inadequacy. He simply selects the tool that serves the work and proceeds. Approach your plans with the same clarity. They are tools in service of your definite purpose. When they work, use them. When they stop working, revise them without drama and without delay. And never mistake the revision of a plan for the abandonment of a purpose. They are entirely different things.